Hello and welcome to our webinar. The story of Ghana is three O's: opportunity, openness and optimism. I'm Julia Charlton, Chair of the Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce and your host, and I'm delighted you could join us today. Ghana is an important market in the Commonwealth, and it's long been renowned as a natural resources powerhouse, with significant reserves contributing over 14% to its strong and stable GDP growth, averaging over 6% in recent years. As the second largest cocoa producer globally and a top gold producer regionally, natural resources have been the backbone of Ghana's economy. However, Ghana's potential extends far beyond its current strengths. Major discoveries in bauxite, lithium, manganese, and more point to exciting opportunities in mining and minerals processing. As the world accelerates towards green technologies, Ghana is uniquely positioned to lead sustainable development in Africa with its abundant renewable energy and critical mineral reserves. In addition to natural resources, Ghana has a thriving tourism industry, drawing visitors to its cultural heritage sites, pristine beaches, and wildlife reserves. Infrastructure projects and initiatives to develop new destinations are boosting tourism's contribution to the economy. Ghana also presents immense opportunities across sectors like agriculture, ICT, manufacturing, and financial services. The government is implementing reforms to attract foreign investment and support local SMEs through programs like Ghana Club 100. Major projects on the horizon include multi-billion-dollar bauxite and iron ore developments, regional energy infrastructure, and expanding special economic zones. With its political stability, young workforce, and strategic location, Ghana has become a top investment destination in Africa. To highlight all this, today we have an outstanding speaker who will provide invaluable insights into Ghana's evolving landscape of opportunities. Thank you all for joining. I know this will be a fascinating discussion on Ghana's bright future. First, I'm delighted to introduce Katicha Ofiri Atta. Kat has served as Head of Strategy for Family Ventures and Offices since 2022. In this role, he oversees value creation efforts across FVO's portfolio of financial institutions in West Africa. Prior to joining FVO, Kat spent 6 years at Goldman Sachs in New York and Hong Kong, where he helped develop market penetration strategies for their equity trading division. He also served on leadership councils to support diversity and inclusion. Kat is passionate about Africa's economic development. He's a fellow of the African Leadership Initiative and believes the continent's financial services industry is poised for global impact. Kat brings a unique blend of investment banking, portfolio management, and African market expertise. It's also my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Yofi Grant, CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center since 2017. With over 30 years in investment banking, leading major deals across Africa, Mr. Grant has unparalleled experience in driving FDI. Under his leadership, Ghana has seen record investments in sectors like ICT, manufacturing, and renewable energy. Recent policy reforms have also made Ghana a leader in cryptocurrency, with the launch of national digital currency being worked on. His commitment to advancing Africa's growth and prosperity is unmatched. We're honored to have Yofi Grant share his insights and vision during the presentation today. I'm excited to hear these developments in more depth, but first let's hear some important updates from Kat. Kat, thanks for joining us today, and over to you.
Thanks, Julia, and thanks for the kind words. Hello, everyone, and greetings from Accra. My name is Katicha Ofiri Atta, and it's such an honor to be here today to introduce you to the Ghanaian Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. We are proud to announce that we finalized our incorporation and are excited to begin working towards improving and expanding business relations between the two markets. Firstly, I'd like to thank Julia and the Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce for their invaluable help and advice during the incorporation process, and I'd like to thank them again for helping coordinate this event. Lastly, I'd like to thank my co-founder, Edward Choi, the Honorary Consul of Ghana in Hong Kong, for his tireless efforts to ensure we receive the relevant approvals in a timely manner. Edward is actually here in Accra visiting, to promote the chamber as we speak, and as such couldn't be here for this event. The Ghanaian Chamber of Commerce, or GCC, since it's such a mouthful, is the first market-specific African Chamber of Commerce to be set up in Hong Kong. We believe strongly this signifies the dawn of improved business relationships or relations between Hong Kong and African countries. Historically, trade between Ghana and Hong Kong has been muted relative to the size of opportunities and clear synergies that exist. A critical factor in improving these trade relations lies in the strengthening of communication and information flow between the two markets. As we work towards our formal launch next April in Hong Kong, we're looking to host a series of webinars and virtual engagements to do exactly that, improve information flow between the two markets. In today's session, we're most fortunate to have Yofi Grant, CEO of GIPC, introduce us to the partnership and investment opportunities that exist in the market. We're also happy to announce that Yofi has joined the Ghana Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. We will be hosting further engagements in the coming months with private and public stakeholders in both markets to deep dive into the various sectors Yofi will overview today. Ghana has ambitious plans of developing into the financial services, gold trading, national resource processing, tourism, and transport hub for the West African sub-region, and is uniquely positioned to deliver on this. Yofi will take us through the provisions and policies government is implementing to do exactly that. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Yofi Grant, the CEO of GIPC.
Thank you very much, Kat, and thank you very much, Julia. And I don't know whether to say good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, but whichever applies, I think you should just absorb it and enjoy the radiance of life, notwithstanding all the challenges we are facing globally. And Julia did clearly indicate that the Ghana story is best exemplified by the 3 O's. The first O being opportunity, the second O being openness, and the third O being optimism. And I believe that by the time I've explained what these mean to us and what they should mean to you, you'd have a pretty good picture of the looming opportunity that exists with Ghana as a spearhead in Africa. But even more so, Ghana repositioning itself as a major recipient of FDI on the African continent. Opportunities. When we talk about opportunities, I'm not sure there's a place more attractive today than the African continent. And there isn't a place much more aggressive about pursuing that than Ghana. I mean, Ghana, we pride ourselves by saying that we have a unique identity and property, or a unique address that only us can claim in this world. And it's the fact that we are the country that can claim to be in the center of the world. We are the only country on latitude 0 and longitude 0. And therefore, we say that we are from the center of the world. And therefore, to be able to actually understand our positioning, you must understand where we are and the center and perspective to other operators in the world. And I also would say that, interestingly, Ghana, since its formation as a country, has almost been visited, and I would not want to use the word colonized, but been visited by almost all the European powers that had been there, from the Dutch to the Danish to the French to the Germans to the English, at some point occupied some space in Ghana. And that just tells you how important and critical it is to this opportunity that we have. But in terms of the real on-the-ground opportunity, Ghana, we are a relatively small country, but big enough, we punch above our weight, I'd like to say. We are on about 240,000 square miles of green land. Mostly 60% of our land mass is agricultural, but only about 10% of it is cultivated, which in itself is a major opportunity. We're a small country with a population of 32 million people, of which a good 60% of that are under the age of 35. So that also tells you there's a large emerging consumer market arising. Very much like the rest of the African continent, we do have a pretty aggressive growth tracks, where Africa itself presents the fastest growing continent, the youngest continent, but also the fastest urbanizing continent. And by the year 2030, over 17 cities in Africa would have a population of more than 5 million people. But by that same time, we'll have more towns and villages with over 1 million people than any other region in the world. So Ghana, what makes Ghana so bright and beautiful? First of all, we were called the Gold Coast because the first adventurers who came from Europe got to Ghana, and they thought it very attractive because they could actually, it is told, history has it, whether it's a myth or reality, that they could actually see gold nuggets on the ground. And so they called it Gold Coast. And since then, Ghana has been a major gold producing country, being the largest producer of gold on the African continent. And that has been a major driver of our economy. But we are also a cocoa growing country, the second largest in the world after Cote d'Ivoire. But we are also imbued with quite a significant amount of natural resources and raw materials. We have a bit of oil and gas. We have bauxite. We have manganese. We have the gold, of course. We have salt. We have iron ore, and quite recently we've discovered lithium in commercial quantities, and there are quite a number of prospecting licenses out there that may be attractive to you, knowing very well the import of lithium to the future. But the real juice in the fruit is that most of the transition elements or transition minerals required for energy transition are in abundance as the Ghanaian in the Ghanaian homeland, in the soil, as our resources. So it puts us in a very good position as to how we shall confront our future by mining these resources and adding value to them in situ for exports to countries that require them. But beyond that, we also have quite a good and aggressive, growing population. With the, like I did mention, the demography is quite attractive. On the back of that, the government of the day, led by President Nana Akufo-Addo, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has come in with pro-transformation and pro-growth policies, the most important of them being the one district, one factory policy, which then creates a nascent industrialization policy on which to grow. Because we agree that over the years, the wholesome export of just raw materials and resources has not fundamentally changed the structure of the economy and pushed it into growth mode. But if we're to mine these resources and add value in situ, we will operate at the higher ends of the value chain. And therefore, he has declared a new agenda of a Ghana Beyond Aid, within which there is an agreement that we shall add value to our raw materials and resources before export. And on the back of that, a policy called the One District, One Factory policy was passed. And what it meant was that each district will have at least one value addition or production facility. Today it's one, tomorrow it may be three, the next it may be 5, and very soon we'll have one district, 100 factories. That is how we believe that we are going to initiate our industrialization policy. But beyond that, it's also the policy of ensuring food security, called the Planting for Food and Jobs, in which government has redirected quite a significant proportion of our youth into agriculture by providing extension services and actually providing support in the agriculture sector. And so far, it's been quite significant because we've immediately converted from an import-oriented agri-nation into one in which we are even exporting some of our grains the day. Now, to ensure that we have a structured approach to this whole architecture of transformation, government also formulated what we call the free senior high school education policy, where every young Ghanaian will have access to free senior high school education. This is very important for us because in the medium term, it means the minimum education of the average Ghanaian will be high school education. Now that will be much more significant in enabling us achieve our transformation agenda of industrialization, because we have better trained young people who would have access to further education, because they have the necessary foundational education. And so when you put all these together, from the one district, one factory policy, the planting for food and jobs, and then the free senior high school policy all together, you create an architecture of transformation, which we believe that matched with the transformation and the reformation of our business regulatory environment creates a very vibrant opportunity for investors. But we lean on all these things, first of all, recognizing the SDG 1, number 1, which is poverty alleviation, and the last, SDG 17, which harnesses or leans on partnerships for linkages and trade. And therefore, we want to achieve the great transformation we have with partnerships, sustainable partnerships, and mutually rewarding partnerships, such that we can all have a win-win situation. And so that highlights the opportunity that we have. But I can't talk about the Ghana opportunity without maybe veering off a bit into the bigger African opportunity. And today, the African market has all been coalesced into one called the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which is the biggest tariff-free market in the world since the WTO, which brings together a population of 1.4 billion people, of which still has an interesting demographic because 60% of that population are under the age of 35. So it's the youngest continent on the earth, with a combined GDP of 3.4 trillion. Now, once the AfCFTA is activated, we are expecting to see in the next 10 years an economy that will grow beyond 16 trillion US dollars. But we are also seeing an African economy that will put approximately 250 people out of poverty into an acceptable way of life. We'll create over 18 million jobs, and we'll create a very vibrant opportunity. But what is more pertinent about what I'm saying is today, the African continent in itself also is home to almost a significant proportion, about 40% of the world's remaining mineral resources. And some of the transition minerals that I've spoken about earlier, like platinum, chromium, cobalt, 90% of the world's remaining deposits are in Africa. Africa also has a significant proportion of the manganese, the copper, the lithium, the chromium, the cobalt, the coltan, that are all very much required for the future and transition energies and Industry 4.0 going to Industry 5.0. So the African continent itself is extremely important for global transition, but it also has the greatest potential for sustainable energy, abundant sunshine, very windy. So we have the potential of also generating enough energy that can go into the world. And Africa's gas deposits, and more being discovered, have become a very significant construct in today's energy demand because of those resources. But beyond that, the population of Africa, and I did say, is the fastest growing in the world, and the continent is the fastest urbanizing, means that Africa has a real consumer market waiting to happen. But beyond that, it is also the largest, it has the largest and most youthful working population or working cadre in the world today, which are all very great elements for transition into wealth. So it has the resources, it has the people, it has the potential, and it has also the will to change. And so the African opportunity, very much highlighted by Ghana, is very real. And I keep saying that Africa's problems that we see highlighted elsewhere are really Africa's solutions for the world's bigger problems, whether it's in climate change, whether it's energy transition, whether it's an opportunity for feeding the world. And by the way, 60% of the world's remaining arable land left is in Africa. So apart from producing the raw materials needed to further drive industrialization and post-COVID and after all the conflicts globally, it also has the land to be able to feed people. It has a population to serve as a consumer market. This population is comparable to that of China and that of India at the most significant times in their development. So the African opportunity is real. And even as you look through Ghana, Ghana presents itself as a channel into the African continent. Being the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence, we clearly have a mandate of ensuring that no African country is left behind in the whole transformation agenda. And so we are driving it through hosting the headquarters of the AFCFTA, but by actually going out and saying we need to move as a continent beyond aid to trade. And we need to add value to our raw materials and resources before export. So that highlights the real opportunity that you have. And today at the GIPC, and using the chamber that we've just formed, we are opening doors and creating channels of engagement to Ghana and to the continent. And GIPC in Ghana will handhold you to see these, investigate these opportunities and create mutually beneficial businesses, which I believe is what we all require today. So that is for opportunities. Now, in terms of openness, we keep saying that Ghana is open for business. We have managed to chalk quite a number of credible plaudits in the international markets for our reforms, for our aggression to tackle the problems that we have post the COVID pandemic and the conflicts which affected our economy as well. We, in record time, had an agreement with the IMF to enable us restructure and get back into policy credibility. But despite all that, in the first 2 quarters of this year, our growth rates have almost doubled from the projections that the IMF did put in, and we are doing an average of 3.25% on a quarterly basis. So we are very clear with our policy frameworks. We have transformational policies that are going to create a modern economy. And I didn't even talk about the real on-the-ground opportunities, because with all the elements that I spoke about, the mineral resources, the agricultural policies, we are also clearly focused on how we're going to transform our economy. And some of our priority investment opportunities lie in infrastructure, where there's a clear engagement with the private sector through PPPs, as public-private partnerships, but also private sector engagement in the financing and running of these entities. We're also very clear on where we are going with energy by introducing sustainable renewable energy through solar, wind, nuclear, and wave energy to actually augment our traditional energy sources and move away from thermal energy. We still have quite a number of hydro resources which we are also going to develop, which are also great investment opportunities. But hospitality and tourism has also crept us as a very important opportunity for investment. Of all the 67 forts and castles that were built on the African continent during the ignoble and ignominious era of slavery, a good 34 of them are in Ghana today. And so in terms of cultural tourism, we have the assets. We are also a tropical rainforest country, so there is a great opportunity for ecotourism in Ghana, not to mention the diversity of culture that we have in Ghana. Indeed, I was actually going to show you a video, but for some reason, that video decided that it will wait. It wants you to come to Africa. So I won't show you the video yet. I want you to come to Africa first. And then, once you do that, then you will see the opportunities that we have. So there it is, the Ghana story, as I did say, opportunities, openness, and optimism. And so just to give you a preview of Ghana as it is today, this is the Ghana that I've been speaking about.
In the heart of West Africa lies a land brimming with untold stories, vibrant cultures, and boundless spirits. Welcome to Ghana, the heartbeat of Africa, where nature and culture harmoniously exist. Feel the rhythm of life as you wander through the vibrant market and witness the infectious joy and warmth of the Ghanaian people, their skill and determination that provides sustenance for their communities. Immerse yourself in the rhythms of the drum, the graceful movement of traditional dance, and symphony of cultures, languages, and traditions that coexist in harmony. Explore the rich history of Ghana as you walk through the corridors of our historic forts and castles, a reminder of the resilience and strength of the Ghanaian people. Embark on an unforgettable safari in our forest reserves and parks, where wildlife roam freely in their natural habitat, and take in the spectacular beauty of nature that envelopes Ghana with its imposing waterfalls and water bodies. Uncover the essence of the legendary Gold Coast, renowned as one of the world's leading producers of gold and adorned with other minerals like diamonds, iron, bauxite, lithium, and manganese. And beyond the treasures, lush vegetations thrive and abundant oil and gas flow. Experience the vibrant energy of the cities where modernity and tradition coexist, where industries are thriving, backed by continuous technological advancement, with people exuding an unwavering spirit of progress. And don't forget, we are the commercial hub of Africa and a symbol of democracy on the continent. Indeed, this is Ghana, a home for the diaspora community and persons from all walks of life, where every moment is an opportunity to create lifelong memories, discover the magic, embrace the spirit, and let Ghana leave an indelible mark on your soul.
So, you get a sneak preview of Ghana. For those of you who haven't been, we are actually waiting for you. And I believe this should at least trigger a bit of appetite coming. And I did speak about the African opportunity. Like I said, significant natural resource deposits, which you see here. And I have also, what I didn't mention is that there are 22 countries on the continent providing petroleum and coal, 13 produce industrial minerals, including gypsum, diamonds, sulfur, phosphates as main commodities. But even more importantly, 11 countries are top producers of metal minerals, including gold, iron, titanium, zinc, copper, lithium, bauxite, manganese, and quite a significant amount of those. And I did mention about the arable land that we have that is good for agriculture. But the important thing that I did mention, for which Ghana is leading this whole African renaissance, is that by 2050, Africa's population will have grown to 2.6 billion. It will be 1/4 of the world's population. Every fourth person will be from Africa. By the year 2100, every third person will be from the African continent. And for us, that represents a significant opportunity to actually nurture a new consumer market. And to also tell you about the change in the actual narration, the African narration that we've had before. We do recognize that there is a new change that is happening in Africa. And despite all the disruption that is happening, we still see a good story. And by 2018, for example, 6 out of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world were from Africa. And so that tells you there's a new storytelling, a new story emerging, which you have to plant yourself in. And I have already indicated that we are expecting to see a significant growth in the market. What the AFCFT does is to create a single market of a non-tariff market of the 1.4 billion people, and we'll have 90% trade liberalization within 5 years. So for those of you who are in Hong Kong, in China, and in Asia, there's no better place to manufacture than on the African continent. And Ghana gives you an entry point into that, because when you manufacture in Ghana and you export to the rest of the continent, it's tariff-free and increases your ability to create your wealth. And additionally, I mentioned the growing consumer market, and the presentation will be available to you, because I'll send it over to Kat and to Julia so that you have access to it and you can go through it in a more significant and constructive way. But yes, I was on the part of the openness of Ghana. And why Ghana? First of all, I think we have a great political stability, and a great political climate, which of course is very important to the investor. And we are constantly engaged in business-friendly reforms. Our macroeconomic prospects, which I spoke about before, are clear, and there's clear government commitment through policy and engagement to ensure that we achieve the growth rates that we want. We are looking that the next 10 years, Africa's and Ghana's growth rates should enter double digits. And we are doing that through robust policy initiatives to ensure stability, but also consistency. And I did mention that we have attractive investment opportunities. I mentioned infrastructure, I mentioned energy, I mentioned hospitality, tourism, but of course, financial services, especially in ICT and fintech. And Ghana has been pointed as probably one of the countries, the best country to scale up in Africa in the technology space. And we believe that we are seeing quite a lot of innovation happening in the country today. And of course, manufacturing and fast-moving consumer goods would have a place in our investment opportunity. And therefore, we look forward to engaging with you to actually exploit this opportunity for mutual benefit. But even more so is that our position as a center of the world also makes us reachable to almost every major market globally except Asia within 8 hours. And that is why we had a lot of the European countries at one point in history occupy Ghana or come through Ghana from the 1600s. And so we are taking advantage of that. Today, Ghana has probably the largest container port in Africa with a capacity of 3.7 million TEUs annually. But we are engaged in further expansion in that. And therefore, we are very keen to actually speak to possible investments to take advantage of this great opportunity. And Ghana, through the aggression that we've had in the market and the new repositioning, are probably doing about 1/4 of the FDI inflows into West Africa, as indicated by the numbers between 2016 and 2022. But we're also close to Nigeria, which of course is the bigger market. But to work through Ghana has always been a much more interesting perspective. And I have already spoken about some of these opportunities, so I will not go into them. Just to tell you some of the things that we are doing in the manufacturing space. Beyond that, too, there's, of course, agricultural opportunities that are there. Beyond agriculture is also the technology deployment that we have that is happening in our country today. Then, of course, without a doubt, tourism. And I did mention that hospitality is one of our strong points.
Imagine a place far from home, where you are still seen as family. A peaceful country, filled with affable people, decorated with stunning landscapes, world-class beaches and rainforest, also having rare wildlife in abundance. That is Ghana.
Audio Jungle.
Ghana is among the top tourist destinations in sub-Saharan Africa, gradually becoming the end-of-year convergence point for tourists around the world. The country mesmerizes visitors from all walks of life, with some of the world's most historic forts, delectable cuisine, and unique festivals from its diverse cultures. Indeed, there is no dull moment when you visit Ghana. The country's ecotourism offering has seen expansion in recent years as some of its main ecotourism sites, Mole National Park, Kakum National Park, Wabim Fiema Monkey Sanctuary, continue to garner tourist attention. Ghana achieved significant progress in developing ecotourism tourists at some of its main nature reserves. After introducing the highly successful Year of Return campaign in 2018, Ghana cemented its place as a top travel and investment destination for Africans in the diaspora. Tourist locations all over the country are steadily being improved to meet international standards as government now mandates sites to acquire specific licenses and certification in order to operate.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Then, of course, we have the energy sector, which I spoke about, which, of course, is very important for concentration. And I move from traditional, just hydro and thermal, into other sustainables like wind and solar. And of course, I can't end without showing you one of the most important parts of our culture. Of course, it had to be soccer. And Ghana has a rich pedigree in sports, particularly soccer, which has also put us on the map. And maybe we can teach you a thing or two in that sphere. So I did speak about our openness, and I did mention that we are open for business. We are engaged in radical reforms to improve the investment climate and, of course, the ease of doing business on the back of our stable political environment. We are already a top investment destination in West Africa, and a lot of our policies are very investment friendly. And I believe that the work we do has awarded GIPC as the best IP in Africa by CFI.co 4 years running, and also the best IPA in West and Central Africa by the annual AIM Awards in Dubai. And so we are very clear that our engagement should bring about mutual benefit. We see investment as a relationship, not an act. And therefore, we are looking forward to sealing that relationship. The chamber and the chamber will play a significant role in ensuring that that happens. But of course, I will end by talking about the last O, optimism. And Ghana has still ranked as one of the biggest and most attractive places for investors, FDI, in West Africa. And we have shown resilience and dynamism in our economy. And despite the times of dire directions, we are able to overcome and transform. And so we are very clear on our objectives and how we are going to achieve them. And we believe that the Ghana opportunity will give you a great chance to also engage the African opportunity. I just put a few slides on what we call the post-COVID for economic growth program, which we've worked out with the World Bank, first of all, to bring about public financial management reforms, to bring about reforms in what was known as the state-owned enterprises, with significant reforms and privatization. We've also cleaned up our financial sector, and we are looking for significant partnerships with Hong Kong to ensure we broaden and widen the ability to engage. And then we've recently engaged in a significant and aggressive tax policy and revenue administration reforms to close the leakages, but to ensure fairness in our tax regime, and then also to ensure social protection reforms. So the focus is going to be on manufacturing exports and the areas that I've spoken about: infrastructure, energy, hospitality. And we are also now engaged in a strong PPP delivery mechanism, and we have recently passed a new law on public-private partnerships, which will also help improve the business environment. And last but not the least, the ability to transform to a digital economy. And government's view is that the main ways in which government will deliver services to the public, to the general Ghanaian public, is through technology. So we are also looking at partnerships and possibilities that can exist to ensure the efficiency that we require. At GIPC and in Ghana, we will give you significant investment incentives that will make your investment worthwhile. But the best way to see all of this is actually to come to Ghana. When you come to Ghana, you see Ghana, you taste Ghana, you feel Ghana, you wear Ghana, and then you will see that, yes, truly, you are in the center of the world. So I think this gives you a sneak preview of the Ghana opportunity and the Ghana story, which I hope would excite you and get you engaged in conversations. And I'm willing in the future to engage. I look forward to joining all of you physically sometime very soon. But I'll hand over to Julia because I think I've even gone way past the time that we had. So
No,
Julia.
not at all, not at all. Perhaps if we have a few more minutes, we can discuss in a bit more depth some of the things you've talked about. It was very, very inspiring. Thank you so much, Yofi. And I particularly love those football photographs. Aren't they amazing? But I do know that you have some very good women's teams as well.
Yes, we
in women's
do.
football,
We
and
do.
you don't have any of the women's football team photos. Maybe that's for your next presentation.
Absolutely. You're
Yeah.
spot on.
Yeah. So I guess sport is getting to be bigger and bigger business. And I think I saw on the news a day or two ago that women's sport is worldwide is now worth about $1 billion. So I guess, women's sport and sport generally in Ghana is quite big business, is it?
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Yeah.
And I think that the $1 billion is just a drop. It should be
Yeah.
multiples, hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
If you look at global population dynamics, the women are almost just the same as the number of men. And I believe that there is a great opportunity for them as well. And so we are looking forward to the day when great women footballers will earn as much as great men footballers.
That'll be the day. I loved what you said. It really resonated with me about people in Ghana treating you like family, because I grew up with a Ghanaian family in the same village that I lived in. I mean, they had moved to the UK. I mean, looking back, they'd obviously moved actually just quite shortly before I started school when I was 4, together with one of their children who was exactly my age. And there was some older and younger in that family. And I do remember my friend's father telling me off when I was 14 for being out with his son when I had an exam the next day, and he really told me off. I always remember that. He was quite right. He should have been telling me off. But to talk about some of the business opportunities, particularly with Hong Kong, I know that Ghana signed up to the IOSCO Memorandum of Understanding, which is a quite an important thing about securities regulatory cooperation. It's a multilateral, global form of undertaking, which would make it much easier for Ghanaian companies to raise capital on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, should they ever wish to do so. And I was looking at that in the context of some of the reform of your state sector. What sectors do you think would be interested in potentially raising capital in Hong Kong, hopefully when the markets are a bit better than they are at the moment?
Well, but you know, even as the markets maybe in Hong Kong don't look good, the opportunity here definitely trumps whatever could have happened in those markets.
Yeah.
And I dare say, and I keep saying, that African opportunity is one that you just can't ignore. I mean, if in 2050 Africa is going to be 1/4 of the world's population and have the youngest population, I mean, the business person can only see that as opportunity. You know,
absolutely, yeah.
And but you did ask which sectors. I think first of all, the fintech sector is very ripe and creates great opportunity for creating unique solutions to unique problems. Last year, total transactions on the mobile phone only in Ghana topped $120 billion, about 160% of our GDP.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I think that is significant. That's significant. Additionally, there's also the opportunity to raise capital for infrastructure in Ghana, both road and railways. We've just rehabilitated an airport in Accra, which won the first place in airports under 15 million for quality of service. And so infrastructure is key. And our positioning both geographically and politically makes us really attractive. Like I said, we're in the center of the world, but also center in West Africa. And so infrastructure, connective infrastructure is very key to us. And for example, just beyond the infrastructure is also manufacturing. If you look at the AFCFTA with all the potential to even facilitate movement of goods and services within the continent would require the production of about 2 million trucks. And that is a sitting duck for any great investor who wants to connect in the continent. Today in Ghana, we do have a Chinese assembly plant called Zonda Sinotruck, manufacturing and assembling Sinotruck trucks in Ghana, and doing very well for the mining industry, but also for the oil and gas industry. And so that could be extended for provision of logistics movement on the African continent. And then, of course, there are the soft economies of health services and education, which are also really prime opportunities on the African continent to take advantage of the demographics, but also the growth within the African continent itself. So I think those are pretty strong on the list when you get. But the truth of the matter is, for anybody who is really, what I say, a business junkie or a business entrepreneur who has a free entrepreneurial spirit, you can't be anywhere better than the African continent, because everywhere you turn, you do and will see opportunity. So the real thing is to come visit. We are making visa requirements very relaxed. And like I said, Ghana scores highly on the stability, peace, and stability and peace index, and probably the place you want to be on the continent. We have a very friendly people who are very engaging, and Julia's own story tells a lot about that. So we look forward to see quite a number of you come to Ghana to visit.
Oh, it's hard to resist when the way you put it, Yofi. So tell me a bit more about how investors can use Ghana's special economic zones, because I've also heard that there are opportunities that some businesses actually locate in Ghana in order to do business in other surrounding countries in your part of Africa, as well as simply doing business in Africa. So
Right.
What do you think the particular advantages are of the special economic zones?
Well, of course, with the special economic zones, you are privy to specific policies that are advantageous in terms of incentives for you. We had quite a strong free zones policy, but we're now extending to special economic zones in certain economies. For example, oil and gas, agro-processing, technology, textiles, pharmaceuticals, all aimed at first of all, the West African market, and then, of course, the Africa Continental Free Trade Market. And like I did say, if you manufacture in Ghana and you want to serve that 1.4 billion population market, it is tariff-free. Most of the goods are tariff-free. It makes better sense for you to set up a plant in Ghana to export to the region than to export from Hong Kong or China or Asia to the African continent with all the tax issues and the tariffs that you have to do and the haulage cost and all that. So I believe that we have a unique selling proposition in terms of the opportunity for investors. And beyond that, we also have our own internal incentives that will help investors mainstream their business here. And at GIPC, we will actually handhold any investor who comes. We have an active aftercare service that also helps investors to take care of some of the problematic nuances in the market and helps you to negotiate your way into the market. And then, of course, we recently added even a diaspora unit at GIPC so that Ghanaians who live in the regions, in Asia, in Hong Kong, Singapore, will have access. We also consider them our best ambassadors.
Absolutely. Yes. So could you give me some examples of some regions or cities that offer particular investment environments or particular opportunities?
Well, I mean, of course, in Ghana, we have Accra, the city, the capital city, where you find most of the industry. But there's also Kumasi, which we call the hub of commerce in Ghana, and the Ashanti region. It's a city that is planted in the powerful Ashanti region and the Ashanti Kingdom of history, where a lot of the trade in West Africa took place. It's still very much a bustling commercial city with a population close to 4 million people, but great opportunity because almost all the mineral reserves are within the Ashanti region. So it creates a very attractive investment opportunity for investors who are looking at it. Then, of course, there's Takoradi in the southwest, where we call the oil city, and a lot of Ghana's oil prospects are within the shores of the western side of Ghana, and that is where the oil industry emerged. But more recently, we've discovered that 40% of our landmass sits on onshore oil, especially on the eastern side. So also creates a very interesting opportunity for those who are coming. But Julia, perhaps the thing I need to re-emphasize and re-echo is that there should be a change in the narrative of Africa. And there's always been this narrative of a perception of risk. But yet when you look at the literature, especially from UNDP and UNCTAD, Africa has less performance risk and repayment risk than many other regions in the world. Africa's performance risk is less than in other places, but there's always this halo that it's Africa, so it must be riskier. There are companies from Europe who have been in Africa for over 100 years, and they are still here doing brisk business. They've grown on the African market, and that should serve as a great example for those who dare, because this is where the growth is going to be. This is where the reward is going to be. This is where you're going to optimize your investment. And I have absolutely no doubts about it. And that's why I say that the problems of the world gives Africa a way as a solution.
Yeah, I think particularly in Ghana with your stability, actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't have said it better.
Yeah, so now, I mean, particularly for somewhere like Ghana that has such stability, it's all opportunity, actually.
Yes, indeed it is. And so we really look forward to engaging. We really look forward to seeing quite a number of you make the trip to Ghana. And yeah, for those who want a little diversion from normal, in December, we have what we call December in GH, where Ghana actually exposes its culture, its food, its music, and it's a month-long of festivity to highlight the Christmas period. So for those of you who want something very different, December is the time to be in Ghana.
My goodness, it sounds exhausting. Okay, well, that's a wonderful note to end on, unless there's anything else you would like to add to your message, Yofi.
Well, yes, I'd say that Ghana is open. Ghana is ready to engage. Ghana is not new. Ghana is very inclusive. We have investors from all over the world who are now coming. We still remain attractive, and we believe that if there's a better time in history to engage, it can't be better than today.
Well, thank you very much for your great insights, Mr. Grant. I can't believe that we're already at the close of the webinar. It's clear that through its wealth of natural resources, thriving tourism sector, business-friendly reforms and strategic projects on the horizon, Ghana presents a world of opportunity for investors, businesses and partners globally. Under the leadership of Mr. Yofi Grant and the Investment Promotion Centre, Ghana continues to strengthen its position as a top investment destination in Africa. While Ghana has experienced much success, there's still plenty of potential yet to be unlocked, and I encourage all of you to consider how your organisations can get involved and take advantage of opportunities across sectors. Whether through trade, FDI projects, impact financing or advisory services, your participation will help accelerate Ghana's sustainable growth. For those interested in learning more, you can visit the Investment Promotion Centre website for the latest updates and investment guides. It was also so exciting to hear from Kat about the great developments with the establishment of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. I can't wait to see you again, Kat, in Hong Kong and explore more collaborative opportunities in the future and how we can convert these into live deals. So now, on behalf of all participants, I'd like to extend my deep gratitude to Yofi Grant and to Kat for sharing their valuable insights today. I hope we can continue this important discussion of Ghana's development journey. I'd also like to thank everyone who's joined us today. So thank you, goodbye, and see you soon.